Greetings, my lovely subscribers. Chatterboy says hello. Yes. He's been ignoring me all day until I decided to start recording. Dolly wants to say hey too, Dadas? Dolly girl. Okay. To ask you guys to excuse like the clutter in the background, and there's like a garbage bag somewhere. I've been doing my spring cleaning, even though I guess technically it's summer. Is it summer yet? I don't even know. Technically it feels like summer here. In Charleston, it's already like real feel over 100, and the humidity is just absolutely dreadful. And I know that it has been way too long since I've uploaded a video, and I apologize for that, guys. Kind of like I've told you before, it's not something I kind of schedule or force. When I can't film, I can't film. It's kind of like a writer's block for me. And there have been times I've tried to film, and there's a couple videos I think I uploaded that I haven't made public yet. But it has just been a very, very harsh month, and a lot of stuff has happened. Some of it having to do with me, some of it having nothing to do with me but affecting me. And I'm probably gonna be doing several videos this week just trying to catch up with everybody and everything. And I haven't been able to catch up on like all my emails and things like that. And I remind, my comment section is open for comment. You guys can leave comments, and I know some of you do. But the reason they won't show immediately is because I have them set up for approval. I have to go in and approve them. And I know there's people who, you know, pitch fits about that, but honestly I had to make it that way after I had them open publicly. Has nothing to do with Catholics commenting or asking questions, or most Catholics don't ask questions. Most of them would attack me, but it would go beyond what, like, if there's anybody younger on here, or my viewers particularly, I wouldn't want you guys to have to be offended and read some of the things that are written there. And so, yeah, they're set up for approval, and as long as there's no profanity, and long as it has something to do with Catholicism, the faith, anything that has to do with this channel, it will be approved, whether I agree with you or not. And so, yeah, I definitely feel bad that I haven't filmed in a while though, because I know well, last time I looked there was 14 subscribers, and I know more people view than that. But for those of you subscribed, I very, very much appreciate it. And Miriam, I would like to know how you're doing. You know, I haven't heard from you since you said you were trying to write something, and so I just want to make sure you're okay. Richard, I am going to be sending you the video response to yours. Richard is a viewer, a Catholic viewer, very respectful Catholic viewer that has his own channel under King of Sheba. Interesting stuff. Not my type of thing, but interesting stuff. And I've received, I know I've posted publicly videos back and forth and questions with him in comments, but we also have been communicating on a one-to-one level. And one of your questions, Richard, I am going to be addressing in this video. And then the rest I'll be sending to you shortly. I just had to get this started. So basically, gonna kind of, I don't know, specific question answer style, but I'm just going to be breaking up a few topics that I'm going to be going into. I'm back on my old device, which means the camera kind of sucks, and I'm pretty sure I only got like 28 or 29 minutes a segment on this one. And so I'm afraid my whole desire to be able to fit just one basic 40-minute isn't going to happen anytime soon. Money's been really tight. A lot of stuff has been really rough here, and like I said, there's so much that's happened. So much that's happened, and I am going to be going into it in further videos. But bottom line is, just yesterday, was it yesterday? It's the day before. Friday, oh my gosh, what day is it? Wednesday night. Wednesday night, I drove up to Myrtle Beach to get my belongings that were left in the attic of relatives' house when I originally came to Charleston. For those of you who don't know that whole story, you can go back and, watch my testimony stuff. But Myrtle Beach was a bad place for me. A lot of places were a bad place for me, but Myrtle Beach was the worst. And I came to Charleston. I was pretty much homeless, and I was detoxing off heroin and crack cocaine. And obviously I had to leave my belongings behind. And they were stuffed in this attic, and it took me forever to get them back. But basically, I've reached a point in my life last month where it's pretty much down to one blood relative family member that I communicate with, my youngest brother. And him and I have a very close relationship. We always have. I cut his umbilical cord. I was there the day he was born, and we've basically been attached ever since. And he's an adult now. He's all grown up. He's 18 going on 19. And he's on vacation now. But I wanted to go see him and get my things. And it was kind of a marking point in my life for when, all of my belongings are no longer there. I went to get them. I went to get a bunch of records and documentation. Medically, psychological records, and then also documentation from the years of solemn rite exorcism that I was put through in communications. And those things are very, very important. And so I went to get those, and it was just kind of really have no intention of ever going back to Myrtle Beach. It's just really not a good place for me. And I'm going to keep contact with my youngest brother. And I believe we'll have a close relationship, for the rest of our lives. As far as everybody else goes, it's pretty much done. And for a couple people in my blood family, it's been very difficult, very excruciatingly painful to just kind of, I wouldn't even say cut things off, but I think, to put it in the most simple terms possible, I've played a role my entire life. A role that I was forced into from infancy, basically. And that was, I was there basically to carry everybody else, to take care of everybody else, to take every punch and every hit, to take all the responsibility, all the guilt, every problem. I was the giver, the doer, the server, and it's not that there's not good in giving and being generous and helping people, but it can be to a fault, and when it's your identity and it's all that you know to be or do, and if you're not doing that, you don't know who you are and you don't know what you're worth. And when you are in that dysfunctional role, you attract toxic people, and they're generally people who take. They're takers. They're bloodsuckers. They just will use. And I think that obviously there's all sorts of different roles that people fall into, and everybody has dysfunction on a level because we're a fallen race. But there's levels of it, and there's a way to be balanced. And I think that ever since I left the cult and became a Christian, a lot of things started changing in my life, and I had a very, very beautiful period of just kind of rest and not having a lot of difficulty and burdens, and kind of like a honeymoon period, I guess you could call it. And then after that, basically a lot of difficulty, but I'm seeing the fruits of it. I'm seeing that I'm one of those people that it's very hard to push me to a limit. Like, I really just can put up with so much. I mean, anybody who can tolerate 6 years of solemn rite exorcism, and under the terms and contracts that I was put in and the people I was dealing with, I mean, is somebody who has very high tolerance of dealing with bull crap. And so, and suffering and agony, and, it's kind of all I knew. And also, my life was based on the principle and the concept that suffering and misery is good. It's from God, and it's what's going to make me holier, and it's what's going to get me into heaven. And so suffering is kind of a focus. Like, you hate it, but it's a good sign. It's a good thing. And I don't see it that way now. Obviously, suffering is not something that God intended or created. It was a consequence of disobedience and the evil, the separation, the fall. And I see it as something kind of like, I've been through a lot of surgeries, I've dealt with a lot of physical illness, and kind of like how you come out of surgery, like they fix something, they're making you better, and you're miserable, especially my last surgery was horrendous, and you slowly get better and it slowly heals, but you're suffering. And so I know that I filmed a video a while back talking about how I felt that God was really just kind of weeding and rooting people out of my life that he doesn't want in it, that have been toxic to me or for me, or that I have to let go of, you know, those particular attachments or whatever. And I still see that he's done that, and he's doing that, and he's done it on a level that has been really excruciating for me. I would say the hardest point being my sister, the one that I was close with. So we're no longer, I've basically removed myself from that situation, and I'm gonna save that story and what happened for another video, but the bottom line is it was excruciating for me. And I had to come to the realization of the dysfunction in myself and the role that I've played and the type of people that I attract because of that. And just reached a point where I was getting so sick, I wasn't taking care of myself, and mentally even just deteriorating. And that's another thing that I'm going to get into more in specific in another video, but I would like to talk a little bit about mental illness, and this is going to go in lines with one of the things that I wanted to respond to Richard about, which was that absolutely yes, this is my answer, absolutely yes, somebody can be dealing with a demonic possession or internal demonic attack and also have mental illness. They're not like exclusive of each other. In general, they're going to go hand in hand, because the more vulnerability or wounds of weakness a person has, the more powerful a demonic attack or possession can be. When you're dealing with somebody who has been wounded and violated from infancy like I was, obviously that's going to leave you open to a lot of things. And after I was liberated here and converted to Christianity, like I said, I just had like this period of respite. It was just like really not having to deal with anything particular. It was just rest. Just really rested and just experienced relief from all those things that I had to deal with my whole life. And I hoped, like a lot of, I don't know, I guess just part of me hoped that, yeah, everybody's got problems, and I know I've got some emotional problems and things like that, but I just kind of, you know, hoped that everything just kind of was fixed, and that's just not the case. I was liberated from the demonic possession. I experienced attack externally, and I am bipolar, manic depressive, well, not bipolar, it's manic depressive, otherwise unspecified. I have a manic depressive disorder, which was, it was diagnosed previously after I left Arlington and stopped letting them do what they were doing to me. I really kind of sought an answer from psychology. I truly desired, even during those exorcisms, some sort of psychological explanation for everything that was happening to me. And because after I'd been going through so much there and I wasn't experiencing relief and I wasn't being freed, and they kept, in the beginning, were like, oh, it's going to be really quick, it'll be fine, and then eventually just went on and on and on and on, and every answer for why was just BS. And I just used to think to myself, I just wish it were mental. I wish it were all mental, and then they could just give me a pill. I mean, that's how bad it got. I would fantasize about just going to a mental hospital and just being able to sleep at night, like get a pill, sleep at night. So I never slept. I was constantly tortured when I tried to sleep, and brought into these other realms, demonic activity and stuff. And yeah, that was like a good thing to me. I was like, I really hope it's mental. And I went through extensive psychological testing before I went into those exorcisms, after I came out, during all of that. They did their own process with their own psychologist. And I have the paperwork of all those years of everything that I've been diagnosed with. It has always excluded any form of psychosis. It has always excluded any schizophrenic, multi-personality. What I have been diagnosed with and what I do suffer is chronic and acute PTSD, which is to be expected, honestly. Again, from when you go through something like that from infancy, you've been sexually abused your entire life, through your entire childhood, severe physical abuse and violence, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, you grow up in a cult like that. So yeah, I have that stuff. So I have chronic and acute PTSD, and it wasn't until like kind of the very end, when I got into the hard drugs, the last 2 years, before I came to Charleston, was when I was going to see doctors, and I was hospitalized multiple times, and I got the diagnosis of they couldn't quite put their finger on exactly what. It wasn't a classic bipolar, but it's a severe manic depressive disorder. And I see it myself, I've noticed it in myself, and it's kind of been brought to light. I've had about 3 manic episodes over the last year, and they all occurred after my Mama Joe, after I found her dead, and everything kind of started to go downhill. I went into a major depressive, I'd say about 2 solid months at least, in a severe depression, severe. And any of you who've been through or seen somebody going through a severe depression, you kind of know what that entails. And coming out of it, went into very, very erratic manic episodes, and there was one particularly bad one. And that's kind of when everything broke apart, and the people that I trust here, particularly one of the pastors and his wife, are basically my close friends in life. They're family to me, I'm family to them, and I trust them, and they've been very, very involved. And I was able to talk to them and tell them everything that was going on, and which was of course validated. And I did go and have an assessment at the mental health clinic here, and I'm going to be getting into there and be doing EMDR therapy, which those of you who do not know what EMDR therapy is, it was developed originally for veterans who came back from war with PTSD, and it's been proven very effective. I know there's some controversy on it. Some people haven't been helped by it, but a lot of people have. And basically the therapy that I've been through in life, which I started going to therapy when I was 20, when I got back from Europe, and thought I was great. And then you go to therapy and you realize there's a lot of stuff you got to deal with. But overall, the therapy of all the years eventually pointed to EMDR, and they would say that the therapy that I had, there were things that helped, and there was small, short-term kind of improvements and things like that. But long-term, the PTSD just kind of blocked everything from really progressing or ever really healing. And that was my experience too. And with the demonic possession, it was difficult because I was also being told that the demonic holds things in and prevents progression and healing and things like that. And I do believe that 100%. But the thing is, the deliverance happened, the demonic possession I was delivered of, and the PTSD is what is left remaining to deal with, which makes sense. I mean, honestly, if somebody went through what I went through and doesn't have PTSD, I'd be concerned. If they didn't have any sort of mental illness after growing up in that and going through that, there should be a concern. But I do think I'm blessed, and I'm grateful to God that I don't have a psychosis or, anything like that. I did have hallucinations, or what you would call hallucinations, as when I was demonically possessed, but in reality I don't think they're hallucinations, because a hallucination is seeing something that's not there. And I would see things that were there. It's just spiritual realm that other people don't see. But that stopped, of course, after the deliverance. I don't see things anymore like that other people don't see. But that was really as far as it went. But the manic depressive, otherwise unspecified, is very draining. And it's wonderful when you're manic, and I'm kind of coming out of a manic. A lot of people have different ideas of what manic looks like, but for me, I'm highly energetic. I get a lot of stuff done. People generally like being around me. I can talk a lot, or I can talk really fast and not realize it when I'm in my like peak manic, but ultimately I love it. I'm totally fine with me. Like, if they could give me a pill that would just make me manic all the time, I'd be great. I would get so much done. But it can kind of peak into a manic panic, is what I like to call it, with the PTSD panic disorder, which is where you're just flying off the wall, anxiety, panicked, paranoid, screaming, crying. It's like being in the backseat of a car and you're just like, what's happening? I kind of used that analogy when I was possessed to describe things, when the demonic would force my body to do things and I had no control over it like that, but this is different. This is on a completely different level. It's a confusion, almost like a delirium. Like you're just deliriously confused that you can't stop screaming and crying, and you're just in a panic. And you say things like you don't know that you said. People tell you later, just stuff you would never say, just horrible things. And it's a terrifying feeling when you come out of it, because you feel like everybody's going to hate you. They're going to think you're a bad person. And there are people like that. And that's kind of also the unfortunate thing about mental illness, is it's so taboo and people treat it as something that somebody can just fix, or they're a bad person because of it. Whereas you've got somebody with cancer and everybody's just immediately empathetic, compassionate, giving, tolerant. And this is not bagging on cancer. I have multiple family members and friends who have suffered and even died from cancer. And I have a very, very high chance of developing it myself, some sort of reproductive cancer. I pray to God I don't, but if I do, I do. And, you know, it's, I've dealt with physical illness, obviously, had multiple surgeries. But the mental illness is something that the world is just not, particularly the US, is not equipped. The system is very faulty, and it's very unfortunate. And so yeah, that's something I kind of want to bring awareness to on my channel. And I know the main topic and the main point is exposing Catholicism for what it is, and the solemn rite exorcism, and exposing and preaching and witnessing the true gospel. And that brings me into my trip to Myrtle Beach, because every time I go to Myrtle Beach there's going to be something going on. And had a great time with my brother, spent time with my brother, got my things. But towards the end, one of my family members wanted to talk, and of course they made it sound like they just wanted to talk to me and spend time with me, but it's never really about that. It's always about exposing Catholicism and the robotic responses that I get over and over and over again. And obviously I've reached a point in my walk in my faith where I have there's zero doubts regarding Catholicism. And I thought initially that I was never going to be free of that paranoia and that fear that I was going to go to hell if I wasn't Catholic, or that I had to go to Catholic Mass, because, you know, growing up it was, you're going to go to hell if you don't go to Mass on Sunday, and Catholicism is the one only true Church of Jesus Christ. And, you know, I just thought something so deeply embedded in me, and people saying stuff like, you won't get far, you're too attached to the sacraments and A, B, and C, that I would never, ever, ever be free. That I would truly never be free. And I don't know if this video is going to click off soon. If it is, I'm sorry. It's going to go into part 2. But I definitely reached a point where I knew the more I read scripture, the more I read the Bible, the more I reflected, the more I moved forward in life and prayed. It just is like there's nothing in this world that could try to tear me back or move me back. When you know the truth, when you finally have the truth and you see the truth, it's... And as a Catholic, I did always have doubts, even if I said I didn't. I always had doubts about it. There was always something interiorly like, what if it isn't? What if it isn't? What if it isn't what it says? And things here and there that I've gone over before as a Catholic. But I could say, oh, well, is the Bible real, and go completely